Hey y'all, Alan here, back at it again with another movie review. This time, finally, after so many delays, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Here we go, Chris Pratt. Okay, first off, what's the story? To get as non-spoilerly as it can for now, it involves the Guardians having to save one of their own from dying. So they have to go on a journey to save their friend, while also having to deal with the High Evolutionary, a genocidal maniac, wanting to rebirth the universe in his own image. So first, what I think? It was great. And yes, I know I say I like a lot of stuff, but I really do like a lot of stuff. But not only do I think it's great, I think it's a near masterpiece. Holy moly. Because to be honest, I was, even with the fate that people have in James Gunn, I was kind of worried. Because at first I thought he was being kind of overhyped, because I do like the guy, but at first I was thinking he was being kind of overhyped as one of the greatest genre directors of this generation. But I guess after this, now I kind of believe him now. Because I love the first Guardians. I liked the second one, but I felt it was lacking. I loved the Suicide Squad, but then I just thought Peacemaker was okay. And I know I'll get off topic here and there, but it's what I thought. And so I had a bit of worry about this, especially when he's balancing his time starting to be in charge of the next DC cinematic universe and also making this new Superman film. So of course I had minor worries, but it looks like he really stepped up his game, because it is a much better balanced sequel than the second one. Like, it overall is paced better despite being the longest of the three movies. The comedy lands harder, and also the emotion is stronger. Like, the emotional stakes feel like they have more weight in this one, because this feels like the Guardians sequel I've always wanted ever since the first movie. Because not only does this rival No Way Home as my favorite post-Endgame movie, because my favorite movies were Shang-Chi, No Way Home, and Wakanda Forever, but not only does this rival that, it also kind of rivals the first Guardians movie for how great it is, because I was kind of thinking that was just going to be a lightning in the bottle type of deal, but this one actually lives up to that surprise of that first movie, the quality, like it feels complete. Like, it feels it does almost everything perfectly. Like, my nitpicks for this are very minor, which I'll get to later, but I'm so grateful that it's just as good as it is. And I know people like to make their complaints about, oh, this and that, Marvel, this, that, James Gunn, whatever. But to be honest, like, whenever we do get something truly great, it does kind of make everything worth it. And it reminds me how much I love this universe. Like, not just the MCU, but just the Marvel universe throughout its years. Like, the possibilities of stories, characters, and emotions that you can gain from it. This is why I love this franchise, man. And it ain't going away as long as they keep putting effort into these things. And yes, effort. I believe what I said. Visually, it's fantastic. And also on a technical level, it's fantastic. It has great sets, costumes, lighting, sound, visual effects. It's pretty top tier here, and it really does feel like an experience. Like, aside from maybe like the musical score, because I say the score from the first movie is still much better than these two, but for this, it's good. Like, I think the licensed songs are better, but it's good. So yeah, on a technical level, it's fires at almost all cylinders. I also like the uniforms. Like, since they're an official team, actually guarding the galaxy, they have their own clean-cut blue uniforms that are pretty comic accurate. If you've seen them, and I kind of like that design. I know, like, some people say they're better off having different suits because of their personalities, but I feel like it works well here. Like, it looks nice. And even though all three Guardians films have high stakes and they're all epic, this one feels the most epic because of its execution. Because I know the first one, the whole planet of Xandar is in danger, and for these last two movies, the whole galaxy was in danger. I know people like to complain about like always there being high stakes and stuff. Like personally, it doesn't really bother me as long as the characters and the story is good. This shows again you could do a really high stakes end of the galaxy style story while still being emotional and compelling. So it doesn't really matter to me. Like high stakes, low stakes, middle stakes. It just depends on what the purpose is and how it's done and performed. I guess I can get this is a bit spoiler. You know what I'm saying? Spoilery. For about more than half the movie, Rocket is unconscious. So for most of it, we don't get to see Presence Rocket until like the climax. But instead, we get a collection of flashbacks that showcase his origin story on how he became a talking raccoon finally, and how he became the person that he is. And it was quite nice. It's so interesting that they never showed how he managed to meet Groot, but it finally shows who he is, which is nice for people who've been wondering why there even is a talking raccoon in this franchise. And they're pretty emotional and hard-hitting as well. The characters, another positive I can say is like all the major characters are done fantastically. Like they're even better than the last movie personally, because let's say, for example, Peter Quill, after everything he's gone through, he's now a true, proper, respected leader. Like he's smarter now, he's wiser, and even though he can still be a bit like goofy, he feels an actual space defending leader, which is great because it seems he really has learned from his mistake, which is nice. And there's nothing to like contradict it or to regress it or flanderize. He's pretty great. And sure, like someone like Drax is still dumb, but the comedy feels more genuine here and not as forced as like Volume 2. Also, Mantis, she still acts like, okay, she doesn't act like a little kid anymore. She acts more like an older kid. But she's also pretty useful in the story and does quite a bit because, to be honest, like I think she's always been useful. Sure, she's like can be a little like weird and childish, but I've always liked her. She was always a scene stealer for me. Rocket's pretty much the same. He does get more like he does empathize with the team more and is like more of a team player by the end, and he cares about the rest more and isn't that much of an asshole anymore. Also Groot he's not just dumb comic relief here. Like he's pretty useful and he's pretty smart. Like he can fly a spaceship now. He knows how to follow plans without making mistakes. And he has common sense, like I mentioned. Also to the song first. The High Evolutionary is a fantastic villain. He's by far my favorite villain of this trilogy because I thought Ronan was just a typical villain. I know people like Ego, but personally I found him really predictable. But this guy, I love him. Because what also sets him apart from the other great villains is that he truly is pure evil. Like, irredeemable, while still being well acted, but well written. This is a good example of a properly cruel, sadistic, irredeemable villain that isn't boring, which I appreciate because it is a different type of villain for sure. Instead of having like one that has like secretly has a human soul or like somewhat irredeemable, but not this guy. He's better off dead. The songs are pretty good. I know you can find like the playlist of like the licensed songs on YouTube by now, but they're pretty great too. They're also the collection is slightly better than the second movie personally. Yeah, I'm gonna repeat that a lot because it's just how I feel. It's true. But I'd like to give some shout outs to Since You've Been Gone, Do You Realize, and especially Dog Days Are Over. So yeah. Also, who would have saw this coming? They played a Hatsune Miku song. Who would have thought that? And I was like hearing that, is that really a Vocaloid song? But they did. I'm wondering how Counter Earth has a hold of the song, but great. Also, it's funny that people will instantly know, if people know James Gunn enough, they'll know that he put his real life actor friends and family, like Jennifer Holland and his brother. Of course, Kraglin's already been here for a while. Put Nathan Fillion in the flesh, so we can finally see his face for this time. But it's crazy. It's his thing. That might not be everyone's thing, but it is what it is. He put his friends and family in there. So yeah, that's how I'll get for like non-spoiler segments. I don't want this to go too long personally, but even though how much I love it, but I'll get to the spoiler segments in a few seconds. Okay, one of the biggest surprises I've had, no one from the team dies. They all survive. Like, I know it's become kind of a trend for these emotional movies to have a major death, and people kind of expecting it, maybe some wanted a major death. But just like with Quantumania, I feel like you don't need a major death. I know different movies, different opinions, but you don't really need a major death to at least be entertaining or at least emotional, because I know it's been happening recently with like No Way Home and Wakanda Forever, where you killed off side characters to like motivate the hero. But I'm personally kind of glad they did it, because it would have been a bit cliche doing like the trilogy ender where like ending with like certain characters dying, pardon the stuttering. Like I really thought someone like Rocket was gonna die, or Drax, or Star-Lord, or Nebula or Gamora again. But no, like some side characters do die, like Ayesha, which she's more entertaining here than the last movie. She does die, but it's not really emotional since we didn't really get to know her. But yeah, like I was like, wow. I'm wondering who was making up those damn rumors that half of the team was gonna die or something, even like something like Drax. So I'm grateful that they survived. I know one of the bigger disappointments that I can agree with, because of all the hype for this guy, was Adam Warlock, because he's a comics fan favorite that finally got brought to live action, but he's not in the movie much. Like, he comes in, he leaves, comes in, he leaves, and also they changed his personality from the comics. So I guess I can feel the disdain for changing him so much and not having, because like, to be honest, like, James Gunn was planning to have him in one of the first two movies, but he couldn't fit him in. There were also plans for having to debut in Infinity War, but he didn't make it. And he's finally here after so much waiting, but he didn't live up to what people wanted, which I get, and I possibly feel it too, because I also wanted a cool Adam Warlock. And I knew it. I knew he was not going to live up to expectations, because with those trailers, he was barely in the marketing. And I knew that there was not going to be enough room for him in the story, because it was already balancing High Evolutionary, the possible end of the team, the return of Gamora, Rocket's backstory, and every other things. So I knew he was going to get like the short end of the stick. People were calling me wrong and crazy, so I feel so vindicated to be right. Hooray. But at least at the end, he does become part of the team, and yeah, it is cliche, like the threat becomes a good guy because they saved their life, and Groot saves his life at the end, because like everyone deserves a second chance and stuff, which I guess is kind of crazy that they decided to go with him but not with others. They decided to spare his life and also allow him to be a part of the team. But at least it shows that he might become the Adam Warlock that people like from the comics. So we might get it again in the future where they give him more screen time. So at least they didn't kill him off. At least, yeah. Also, they made him golden instead of orange. Also, a personal disappointment of mine was that Kraglin and Cosmo, the dog, weren't in it much, just like in the first act and in the climax, because since they were seen as now part of the team, I was hoping they'd all be together, but it seems not. Also, speaking of which, let's say Cosmo, yeah, he was an Easter egg in the first movie, but was brought back as a full character in the holiday special. There might be some details that if people didn't see the holiday special might be confused a bit, like Cosmo being a part of the team, them buying Nowhere, Mantis being revealed as Peter's half sister. That just happens here, so some might be confusing. I can see some be like, "Did I miss something?" So I don't blame people for being a bit tad confused. But for sure, if you like these characters, you need to see this movie. It's just really good. Another thing, the climax, well, as great as it is, does go on a bit too long because once I'm thinking it's about to end, it keeps going and going and going. So I guess for some might be impatient, but at least it is the last movie. I did tolerate it, and since it did have the emotion, it didn't ruin it, but it did drag it down a bit. Also, weirdly enough, I know this is like meant to be like the final Guardians movie, but to be honest, like aside from some elements being fully complete, it still feels like there could be another Guardians movie. But I guess if James Gunn doesn't want to come back, I guess it's better off they don't even try. So yeah, like and for sure some of these kids will probably reappear in like an Avengers movie or a Nova project or whatever else they decide to use. So it's not the end of the characters, but it'll for sure be the end of these movies. Sucks that Dave Bautista and Zoe Saldana say they're not playing Gamora and Drax anymore, even though their characters are fine. But if they didn't want to come back, I guess that's okay. I kind of get it because I guess the makeup and I guess the pressure of being in these big movies. For sure, that's why Drax was wearing a shirt for the entire of it, because they didn't want to go full on makeup and cover his whole body. But yeah, it's a shame. Actually, we'd like to see these characters again, but if some want to end it off here, I guess it's a decent stepping off point. Because weirdly enough, in the end, Peter and Mantis temporarily step away from the team because Peter wants to like live as a human, as a normal human again, even though he was on Earth at the end of Endgame. But he says to finally go back to his house, I guess one of his family's homes, to find his grandfather from like the very beginning of the first movie. Because I know there was going to be a sad scene in that first movie, which involves his grandfather trying to find him after he was kidnapped. But I guess they finally paid it off here by having him visiting him again now, like much older, and deciding for like temporarily live as a normal person, which is like very nice and deserving. Also, I guess for some reason, Mantis also decides to temporarily step away from the team because she wants to find herself and do more. Even though I don't think really anything really suggested it for it to be this way. It felt a bit pointless, but at least it's not the end of her. She'll still probably come back in the future. And for now, the team is different, which now involves also, it seems like Drax and Nebula are gonna stay in Nowhere. So I'm not sure what's up with that. Are they still members of the team, or are they not? So I guess that wasn't clear. But it seems for now, the team members is Rocket, Kraglin, Cosmo, Groot, who's now bigger in that final scene. And also Phyla Vell, which is a girl with the rescue in the climax. Also, Adam Warlock is now part of the team, which is nice. Yeah, repetitive, I know. So again, it seems like it's not the end of the team, but it seems like there won't be any more movies. Which again, I hope it's not the end of them because there's still potential. Like Chris Pratt said, he would like to come back and play it again. But still, at least now I'm glad that James Gunn will now be in charge of the new DC Cinematic Universe with a Superman movie and help produce whatever else that people make, and I hope really end up being the best movies possible. And I hope if they're good, I hope people don't get tired of superhero movies because like there is still a lot of potential of making good movies. Like if he wants to do something different, I believe him. Also, this makes history as the first MCU entry ever to have an F-bomb, where Peter says to Nebula, "Open the fucking door." And also, Groot says some brand new words at the end that isn't just "I am Groot" or "We are Groot." He says, "I love you guys." which is nice. Like, it's very earned. Like, he finally gets to say something different. Also, the way the movie ends, it could have been pretty stupid and cliche, but I guess the execution, the genuine feelings made it feel like a true ending. Was that the movie ends with a dance party. A trend that has been dead for years now happens here. Everyone dances to the song, like with the iPod that the team uses, like Rocket plays their songs, which he finds out is connected to like these speakers and like magic Bluetooth or something. And then Groot starts dancing first, and then Rocket dances, and then everyone dances like some movie from the 2000s. Which I guess the old schoolness does kind of fit, but it is funny, but also just very emotional. Like seeing everyone happy and dancing to a song. The movie was very emotional, as it should have been, and it is. There was plenty of parts I wish I could have cried, but I personally don't like crying in front of strangers unless it's something actually sad in real life worth crying about. Surprised that my audience was very quiet. Like, there were some great cheer-worthy moments that no one cheered to. Like, people were laughing to the comedy. Some really loudly, some were laughing really loudly, but at least people were getting into it. Also, like, speaking of nitpick, I know it's the typical issue. Like, there'll still be some. It was funny in the last movie, but I still feel, as usual, too many jokes. Some could have been cut off, and I feel even some go on a bit too long. Like the one about like comparing like teams with idiots, like with Drax and Nathan Fillion's guy, and then the one about the drawing, and the one about Drax and the sofa. Yeah, there's a couple more which I'm probably not remembering at the moment. But yeah, there's a few jokes that do go on a bit too long. I feel like they kind of drag out the pacing a bit. But at least there are some really great jokes that do make it worth it. We really feel like a team effort here. Like everyone was giving it their all, which is great. Is it what you want, you know? Shame that they killed off Lila the Talking Otter, since we finally got her in live action, but shit, what now? I guess it was their chance, but I guess they did it to serve Rocket's story. So Laura Barton were worried this whole time. In the end, I really thought that Peter was going to die. Like, get stranded in space, and with his corpse. I really thought, like, I was kind of panicking a bit, where like they're all running from the exploding ship to go back to like nowhere. But then he drops his iPod and has to go back to it. And I was like, really? You're about to die and you decide to go back for that? And he does it. He gets the iPod. It seems like he's gonna make it back, but it seems like some metal blocked him. And I really thought it was gonna be the end of him. But thank goodness Adam Warlock saved his life, like just in the nick of time. And like, I wanted to cheer, but no one was cheering or even clapping. I was like, dang, I really am alone on this. But yeah, it was great to see him, and because holy shit, what a downer if they really ended his character here. But I'm grateful for Adam saving his life and returning over a new leaf. I know he's like acts a bit like childish here, immature, because like the whole deal about him coming out of his cocoon too early. But I'm glad he's part of the team. There'll be future stories with everyone except Drax and Gamora, unfortunately. But at least I'm happy for them to get a different feel-good ending rather than a typical tragic ending. The movie does have 2 post-credit scenes, but they're not the typical as before. It's not setting up something or an extra joke. There's 2 extra scenes. Like the first one being just showing the new team, which is now led by Rocket Raccoon. Well, Rocket is temporarily leading this new version of the team, whereas like now dealing with new adventures. Also, side note, in the credits, as it scrolls down, they put a bunch of pictures of the Guardians' best moments from their movie all the way to here. They even show some pictures from Infinity War with Thor and bits from Endgame, even one from the holiday special, just to make you remember all the great moments we had. Here are all these pictures. And even they play as a nice callback, "Come and Get Your Love" during those credits. And it's like, yes, they couldn't think. This is how you do it full circle. playing that first ever, it was the second song of the franchise, because technically this is that first song that played in the hospital. But yeah. Oh, the second post-credit scenes, it's just like Peter having a conversation with his grandfather at his house, and it ended off here. And I like the stylized logo of the legendary Star-Lord will return, so it means like he will be coming back. Probably not in a movie, but a Guardians movie, but some way, somehow. So yeah, I guess that's how much I can do it. There's a lot to say, but there's so much stuff that I unfortunately cannot remember it all. But I'm grateful for the movie being as great as it is. I don't want people to think that the Marvel franchise is dying or whatever, because there's still potential. Because also people saying like James Gunn is the only good Marvel director, even though there are some other good ones like the Russo brothers, John Watts, Ryan Coogler, and now Destin Daniel Cretton from Shang-Chi. There is a lot to be done. Like, there is potential. Of course, Marvel has to try balancing their projects well and giving it the proper attention they need to be good. I don't mind if some projects are just good, like as long as they're not terrible or average, I'm okay with it, because there are some that are recent projects that have been kind of average. There are some mixed bags that have great elements and mediocre elements. But yeah, the great stuff like this and Wakanda Forever do make it worth it. It shows you why people love this franchise. I really hope people can keep giving it a chance. Or if they don't give it a chance, I just hope they can just leave it alone and let the people who are giving it a chance have their fun. Because what's the point of like trying to bring people down? Like, if you don't care anymore, or only want to stick around for a bit, only for specific projects, or only check what's on Disney Plus because it's right there, you can easily catch up anytime you want, you have all the freedom, then I guess that's fine. People should have their fun. And this shows it. There's nothing wrong with having fun. Anyway, like I said, for now, I'm going to give still Volume 1 as the one on top, but this and 3 are very neck and... Yeah, this and 1 are very neck and neck. For sure, Volume 2 was not very far down, but it is down. Like, for sure, it's a considerable gap of quality, personally. But also, I thought the holiday special was just fun, and I guess I'm not upset about it because like there's been already Guardians media for years. People are used to these characters; they're not new and fresh anymore. This is what like those are blockbuster movies need, like these balance of tones of character, drama, and possibly decent levity and comedy with good characters. Because I gotta give credit, like James Gunn is one of the few directors in cinematic history who can make his movies look and feel like a live-action comic book while still being good movies with depth and good storytelling. So yeah, I guess I get where people are coming from. I won't doubt him again. Hopefully he keeps his energy going. He stepped up his game, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt from now on. Hopefully. But yeah, for now, I give the movie a 92 out of 100. Let's keep rocking out.